Hi folks, hope you all had a good weekend and well done for all the work that was submitted last week. You'll find the work for this week on the Teams page in the usual place. So tap on Files, then the folder number 1, Elements and Periodic Table, and then you're looking for folder number 7, Elements Task Week 7. We'll start off by looking at the learning intentions and success criteria. So this week we're going to be learning about forming compounds and naming compounds. And if you look at the success criteria, you should already be able to state what is meant by a compound from the work we did a couple of weeks ago. And from the work last week, you should already be able to identify some properties of metal elements and non-metal elements. In addition, this week, you should be able to use listening and observation skills to identify key parts of an experiment between magnesium and oxygen. You should be able to use literacy skills to write a scientific report for this experiment. And you should be able to identify the elements found in a compound by looking at the name of the compound. As usual, there's a checklist that shows the tasks for this week. You can find it on the Teams post or here in the Files tab. If you're watching this video, well done. You're already completing the first task for the week. If you need to watch it again, you'll find the link on the Teams post or by clicking on the link at the top of the checklist. Second task is to watch 3 short videos showing magnesium being burned. So when you click on the links on the checklist, it should take you to some short YouTube videos, which you'll see here. So this one's less than a minute long. It shows a piece of magnesium that's attached to the end of a clamp stand and it's being burned. The second one, again, really short video showing the reaction of magnesium when it's put into a Bunsen. What I would say about this video is the blue is just a piece of blue filter paper that's been put over the lens. And lastly, you'll see a piece of magnesium being held over a candle. Now, when you burn a substance, you are reacting that substance with oxygen. So anytime any substance undergoes burning, that is a reaction with oxygen. Burning is not possible without the element oxygen. After you've watched the videos, you're then going to look at this week's booklet, which is a series of tasks about the reaction of magnesium and oxygen. You're going to copy and complete page 1. You're then going to watch another video, which is a bit longer, and it talks you through the experiment showing the reaction of magnesium and oxygen. Once you've watched that video, you're then going to complete a scientific report about this experiment using pages 2, 3 and 4 of the booklet. And then you're going to complete the tasks on pages 4, 5, 6 and 7. You can write these answers in your jotters or on paper, or you can download a copy of the file that I'm about to show you and type or write your answers onto your own copy. So the booklet you'll find in folder number 7, and it should open up like this. If you want to save your own copy and write your own answers like I'm about to do, then you can do that. Or you can write your answers in your jotter or on paper. So page 1 is looking at properties of magnesium and oxygen. Last week we learned what a property means. It's a characteristic or a feature of an element. It's something that an element has that allows it to be used for something in particular. You're going to copy and complete the table showing the properties of magnesium and oxygen, because these are the two elements that are going to be used in this week's experiment. You'll see on the left that there's a list of properties, a list of features that elements can have. You're just going to write in the correct answer for magnesium and the correct answer for oxygen for each of the properties in the table. So the first one's pretty straightforward. Magnesium is a metal, so you would write metal in that space there. Oxygen is a non-metal, it's on the right hand side of the periodic table, so that goes in there. You can then fill it out for the rest of the table. Some, like this one here, you've got two options, strong or weak, so you would write in which one applies to magnesium, which one applies to oxygen. The last four just have one word or one phrase, so you just write in if the element has that property. You can write that word or you can write yes. If it doesn't have that property, you can write that it doesn't, or you can write no, because that doesn't apply to that element. So complete the table showing the properties for magnesium and oxygen. Then the next page is just some information about the next task. So from the checklist, watch the video of the experiment where magnesium is reacted with oxygen. And that, just to show you again, from the checklist, it's not the 3 videos at the top here, it's the one that you can see next to number 2 in this list for the scientific report task. The video of reaction of magnesium and oxygen. So you can find that link from the checklist. Now it's really important that you watch that video before you start the next task from the booklet, because it talks you through the experiment between magnesium and oxygen. Once you've watched the video, you might want to have it handy to re-watch, or have it so that you can pause and write down each key bit of information as you go through the video. And you're going to use the report template on the next page to help you write your scientific report. Now for number 3 here is an important point for you to help you structure your report, is any text that's highlighted in green is something that you should copy. It'll either be a heading or a sentence that you should copy down. If there's no green text to copy, you fill in the blanks for that section of the report. And I'm going to talk you through the report just now so that you know what you're writing down. So you'll see at the top of page 3, you've got this part in green that says scientific report, reaction of magnesium and oxygen. You can copy that down into your jotter. The next part you'll see here is the word aim. That has to be copied down because that's your first heading. So the green is usually a heading, or in some cases it's a sentence to copy. So you copy the word aim. And your aim is just one sentence that explains the purpose of the experiment. So in this experiment, we are going to investigate how one of our elements reacts with the other element, and the clue is in the title there. What is the reaction between? And you write in the names of the 2 elements in the spaces. Your next heading is method, so copy the heading method. This part here is not in green, so you do not copy this part here. So I don't want to see people writing out the phrase, write 2 or 3 sentences that describe how the experiment was done. You're not copying this part. All you're doing here is you're watching the video and then you are summarising with 2 or 3 sentences how the experiment was done. So this part here, this phrase about writing sentences that describe how it's done, you don't copy that part. You watch the video and you write 2 or 3 sentences that explain how the experiment was done. Next part's straightforward enough. Write the heading diagram and then copy the diagram that you can see in the box. That shows you how the experiment is set up. Your next heading is results, and you're going to copy these two sentences and fill in the blanks for what happens during the experiment. So when magnesium is burned in a Bunsen flame, the magnesium reacts with what element? In the second sentence, the magnesium burns so how does it look when it's burned? And what two types of energy does that produce? Once you've copied the sentences, again, you'll see this part here is not in green, so you don't copy this little paragraph. You don't need to copy this. You're just following the instructions that are described. What you are going to copy is this table. And basically what we want to see is, what do our two substances look like before the reaction? So here, the two elements we've got are magnesium and oxygen. So what do they look like before they are reacted together? And then afterwards, what is the name of the compound that these two elements produce? And what does it look like? So after your two green sentences, after you've copied and completed those, you're going to copy this table to show what do our substances look like before the reaction, and what does our substance look like after the reaction. The last part of your scientific report is the conclusion. So copy the heading conclusion, copy the sentence in green, and fill in the blanks. So when our first element reacts with our second element, remember the two names and the clues in the table above, it forms a substance called, and there's two parts to this new substance's name. So you fill in the two parts of the substance that is formed. What you'll see from this experiment is we've formed a compound. We've already learned what a compound is, and you can see that at the top of the next page here. Two or more elements that are chemically joined together, that's what we call a compound. The name of the compound tells us what elements we have in that compound. So for example, calcium oxide contains the elements calcium and oxygen, and we can tell that by looking at the name of the compound. So the name of the compound, calcium oxide, it's got calcium in it, that's why I've highlighted that part in red, that's where that comes from. Oxide looks similar to oxygen, it has the first two letters of the word oxygen, so that tells us, that gives us a clue that oxygen is in that compound. Iron sulfide is a compound made from iron and sulfur, and we get that by looking at the name as well. Copper chloride contains the elements copper and chlorine. Now you'll notice at the end of each of these compounds is the three letters IDE. So when we form a compound, the name of the compound has these three letters at the end if two elements make that compound. So the name changes ever so slightly depending on what elements you've got in the compound. But you can basically look at the full name and work out which two elements make that compound. So the next task is about naming compounds, and like I've just said earlier, compounds that have two elements have names that end with the three letters IDE. And basically what you're going to do here is for 1, 2 and 3, you're going to write which elements are found in that compound. So for iron chloride, sodium chloride, potassium phosphide, what are the two elements that you find in these compounds? And write their names in the right hand side of the table. For 4, 5 and 6, you're going to see if you can come up with the name of the compound by getting a list of elements. So for number 4, you'll see you've got hydrogen and fluorine. So you write in what you think the compound name would be. If you've got hydrogen and fluorine, what would the name of the compound be if you put those two elements together? Then the same for sodium and oxygen, and the same for magnesium and nitrogen. So have a go and see if you can come up with the names of those compounds. What would the compounds be called if they had those elements in them? And then the last task in the booklet, a wee bit more tricky. If you have compounds that end with ATE or ITE, it means that it's a compound that has more than two elements. But one of them is going to be the same element each time. One of them is always going to be oxygen. So if you have ATE or ITE at the end of your compound name, it means you have oxygen plus another two elements at least. So have a go at filling out the table on this page for 1, 2 and 3. Write the elements found by looking at the compound name. So you've got calcium carbonate. So which 3 elements are going to be formed there? The first one is going to be oxygen. Then look at the name, calcium carbonate, big clue, and work out what are the other 2 elements found in that compound. Then do the same for potassium sulfate and for lead nitrate. And for 4, 5 and 6, see if you can come up with the name of the compound formed from the elements shown. And you'll see oxygen is in each one, which means that the name of your compound will end in ATE or ITE. So see if you can work out a name from the other 2 elements shown in addition to oxygen, and write those in the table. Once you've completed the tasks in the booklet, the final task for the week is the assignment quiz, which will be posted later in the week so that you've got time to do the tasks above first. What I would just say about the assignment quiz is that there's still a few people going straight to the assignment without completing the other work first. The assignment's not a test. You can ask for help with this and with the other tasks. Please don't go straight to the quiz without doing the other work first, or without asking for help and end up getting a low score for the quiz. There's no point going straight to the assignment quiz without knowing how to do the questions first. There'll be a live drop-in session this week. You can join and work through some of the tasks during the meeting and get help as you do them. Or you can join if you want to ask a question, or just to listen in if you don't want to speak. You can join the meeting at any time when it's ongoing. Look for the link on the Teams page to join the meeting. And as usual, ask for help on Teams at any time and I can give you some help. And I hope everyone has a good week this week.